What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Just Like Smith channel. In today's video, we're going to be installing and reviewing this Torp Motors Tc500 speed controller that we're going to be installing on the Surron light bee. So let's go ahead and get into this video. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and pull the key, pop the battery lid. You want to go ahead and flip your factory breaker down in here. Unplug these two plugs on the battery and remove the battery out of your bike. As far as tools go for this installation, guys, you just want to have a ratchet, a 4 and a 5 millimeter socket is what I like to use. The Allen head 4 and 5 millimeter, and then a set of Allen wrenches. And that's gonna be pretty much all you need for the install. We're gonna go ahead and remove this ignition, and we'll need to remove this ignition cover to get to some of the plug-ins and such as well. So with two 4 millimeter bolts, we can go ahead and pull this up and out of here. Just lay that right there on the battery tray. One thing that I like to do so that I don't lose the bolts is I'll just go ahead and thread these just a little bit back into where they went. Just a little tip. So now we're gonna go ahead and start on the removal of our factory speed controller. This is where you will use a 3 millimeter Allen wrench and go ahead and pull off these top two bolts that hold on your dust cover along with a little brake line guide. Now that we've removed the dust cover, it's going to expose two 4 millimeter Allen heads. We can go ahead and remove these with our ratchet and make sure that you set these to the side and keep up with exactly where they went. Next up, we will use our ratchet wrench with a 4 millimeter Allen head and remove these two bottom bolts on the bottom of the speed controller that hold your speed controller to the speed controller brackets. There is one 4 millimeter Allen head on each side. Next up, we're going to remove the dust shield that is along the bottom side of the speed controller. So you have a 4 millimeter bolt right here in this exact location, which is directly behind your speed controller mount bolt on the speed controller bracket. So we're going to take both of those 4 millimeter Allen heads out, and then on the bottom of your speed controller you will have two Phillips head screws, and you will remove those as well. Here's one of the Phillips head screws. They run through the lower holes of the speed controller and thread into this plastic guard. Now that we have this plastic guard removed, we can very easily get to the back side. So next up, we're gonna go ahead and remove this bolt right here on each side of the frame. So the reason for removing this is this will allow us to rotate the speed controller mounting bracket backwards and get to all of the plugs to unplug and remove the factory speed controller. So now that we've removed those top bolts, we should be able to push on this. And as you can see, that will rotate this backwards. So right here's your little side profile. You can see that used to run along this, and now we've rotated it backwards and we can get to all of the plugs. So now we want to locate all of your factory speed controller plugs. And once we've got those located, we're going to push in on the tabs and unplug these. And now all that's left to do is, using a 5 millimeter Allen wrench, you can remove all of the connections on the bottom of the speed controller. Now we only have 3 more connections remaining: the yellow, green, and blue wire. These are all 5 millimeter Allen wrenches. All right, so I just now removed the final wire off of the speed controller. Now we have our factory speed controller completely removed, and I guess we can go and throw it away. Next up, we're gonna remove these speed controller mounting brackets, one on each side, and they are both mounted with 4 millimeter Allen bolts. Now, with the two Allen bolts, two smaller ones that are included in the Torp speed controller box, are going to actually mount this speed controller. And right there is the second bolt. Man, that Torp controller really looks good right there. Now you want to take the connector that comes with your Torp Tc500. You're going to go ahead and plug it into the factory Surron harness. And once you hear 3 audible clicks from each connector, 1 click, 2 click, 3 click, make sure that those are plugged in really, really good. And I also added some dielectric grease. to try to prevent any corrosion when riding the bike in wet areas. Now we can plug it into the speed controller itself, and you guys heard that click. Next up, it's as simple as connecting your blue, green, and yellow wire, and then your plus positive to the red, and your negative black to the negative. So I've got all of these wires connected to the new Torp controller. I did go ahead and remove some of the sheathing off of where these were like mated together. I just went ahead and trimmed some of this off so then I could reach the negative around the positive a little bit nicer. It was putting the negative in a pretty good kink, and I think I'm still gonna rotate this down just a little bit, and then this will actually tuck in just like that. I also went ahead and put these bolts back in, so now the speed controller mount is in the correct location. So that's pretty much all. We have to hook up the display, I think, and go ahead and run the wire for the display. So this one will come with a little dummy plug in it. You'll just remove this dummy plug and plug the display into right here. Now next up, I just went ahead and installed the skid plate. I want to say that they were 4mm bolts. There were 2 of them at the top, and I love the way this is designed, how it just slides into the skid plate at the bottom. And as far as the brake line goes, I couldn't use that top little holder anymore, so it just tucked nicely behind the skid plate, and then I zip tied it to one of the factory wiring harnesses. So next up, we're going to go ahead and run our display wire. Make sure that you leave enough slack so whenever you turn the bars left and right, it doesn't become tight or stay too loose and get snagged on something. And then you want to go ahead and install your ignition. Next up, we're going to go ahead and slide the battery in, plug it back in, turn the breaker on, and turn on the key. Let's get ready to test this thing out. We're going to ride it tomorrow. It is nighttime right now, and I am having to do a voiceover because once again I accidentally filmed in slow motion. Anyway, let's check back in with you tomorrow when we get to test out the Torp Motors Tc500 for the very first time. Let's get it. Alright guys, so we are now on the bike. We've went ahead and opened up the app, and right here is pretty much your speed, your motor temperature, battery temperature, and I think this is the speed controller temperature. You've got your battery percentage, your voltage, and you also have your trip for, I think this is completely how many miles you've ridden the bike since you turned on the app and turned on the bike. So also in the app we have our battery where you can set this to stock bypass, 72 volt, 60 volt. So I just have that set to stock battery. Then you're going to have your voltage minimum, voltage maximum, your motor temperature cutoff, kickstand sensor, crash sensor, and your modes. Now right here guys, this is what I really like. You have your motor current and your battery current, and then the RPM I just set it to infinity. But we have the battery current and motor current, and then it estimates your power right here. So you can actually turn down your motor current and lower your power. And then right here is also the Torp display. It looks really nice and sleek. It shows your mile per hour as well, for just in case you're not using the app. This is going to be 6.5 kilowatts. And I want to show you how the bike will barely do a wheelie. So right here you can watch my wrist. That's wide open. Wide open. Wide open. So now we can pull out the app and we can crank this to 6.5 is where it was just now. You all seen the bike would not even do a wheelie. Now this is an extreme, but we're gonna go to 500 watts and then watch how easy the bike will do a wheelie. This is not even a quarter throttle. It pops right up. So that's kind of an extreme. I don't want to bore you guys to death with helmet cam footage, but if you have the bike turned all the way down You could literally let someone who barely knows how to ride a bike ride this bike, and then you can, of course, get it to a setting to where it will literally wheelie for days, and have a lot of power. And of course, if you're on, you know, wet ground or slippery ground, like, it's going to literally, it will literally do a burnout. And I know that it will do a burnout on the stock controller as well, but I'm telling you guys, it's a completely different animal. To still have the stock battery, it is a completely different animal because you are pulling more power out of the stock battery. So this right here is where I really enjoy the bike. But like I said, I wanted to show you guys the minimum and the maximum pretty much, to explain to you that you can play around with this app all day long. You can fine tune this bike to where it feels exactly how you want it to feel. And that's not even in the throttle settings. The throttle settings, you can adjust your throttle to aggressive or smooth. You can also change the power curve. There's a lot on this application that you will love to adjust and play with to get your bike tailored exactly how you want it to feel. So now what we're gonna do, guys, is just kind of show you a demonstration to how smooth this throttle is. Don't get me wrong, I could already wheelie with my factory speed controller, but the throttle response, once you actually have it popped up in a wheelie, to keep it doing a wheelie is so nice. Doesn't lay down near as easy. And say you lose that balance point and you're trying to give it power to get it back up to the balance point, it does definitely seem to have a lot more power to actually pull back up to that balance point. It does wheelies like it's nothing, guys. And I don't know if you can see my wrist, but like the power is instantaneous. Trying to show you guys, you know. And now this is downhill and it will still just pop up and wheelie so easy. So now we're gonna do a little pull from the stop sign, wide open throttle, all at once. 3, 2, 1, go. See, I did have to let off of the throttle because it tried to wheelie. Because right now, if I just hold it wide open, it will come up now. It is a completely different animal.
Alright guys, so I hope you all have enjoyed this video on the Torp Tc500 controller. Aside from such an awesome operating app to where you can make so many changes to tailor your bike specifically to exactly how peppy, exactly how torquey, and just exactly how smooth you want your power delivery, all being at the tip of your fingers on the app on your phone, along with, guys, I've got a Chai battery sitting over there from a buddy's bike. If I wanted to, I could literally throw on the lid extension, pull the stock battery out, plug in that Chai 72 volt, and we could literally try out a 72 volt battery, because I can literally just hop into the app and set the battery to 72 volt and play around with it until I get it exactly where I like it. That's what I love so much about this Torp, is whenever I installed the 72 volt originally running the back 4000, I had to call the company and they like logged into my phone, and it was like a big ordeal. So this Torp controller, not only pulling 8.6 kilowatts out of the factory battery and turning my bike into, like I've said, a completely different animal, it's such a huge difference, guys. The throttle response, the throttle delivery, everything about this Torp controller is awesome. Don't forget to get down there and hit that subscribe button. Drop a like and drop a comment if you'll have any questions. That's going to be all for today's video, guys. Always remember, everybody starts out as nobody, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Huge shout out to Torp Motors for supporting the YouTube channel. You guys are awesome.